Welcome to Silent Queen's Reckoning. I'm so glad you could join us today. Now let's dive right into the story.
Chapter 1. Ethan Caldwell came home from his mistress at 4:17 in the morning and found a sold sign on his own front lawn. At least, he thought it was his lawn. He stood in the pale blue light before sunrise, smelling of another woman's perfume, his shirt wrinkled from the floor of her apartment, and stared at the red letters nailed into the grass like a verdict. Sold. The Georgian house behind it looked dark, hollow, and strangely unfamiliar. Ethan pressed the remote on his key fob. The garage door did not move. He tried the front door. His key would not turn. For a few seconds, he simply stood there, irritated more than frightened. Olivia must have changed the locks. Olivia, who had not raised her voice in 9 years of marriage. Olivia, who folded his shirts by color, remembered his mother's birthday, and had never once made a scene in front of the neighbors. She had a flair for timing, he thought bitterly. Of course she would choose the morning after he spent the night with Serena Vale to become dramatic. He took out his phone and called her. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. His irritation thinned. He walked to the bay window and cupped both hands around his eyes. The living room was empty. Not messy. Not packed. Empty. The gray sectional was gone. The walnut coffee table was gone. The bookshelves were stripped bare. The framed architectural awards he loved to display beneath the recessed lighting were gone, leaving pale rectangles on the wall like old bruises. Ethan backed away from the glass. "Olivia?" he called, though the house could not hear him. He went around the side, trying the kitchen door, the mudroom door, the French doors that opened into the garden. All locked. All dead. At the back terrace, panic finally arrived, cold and sharp. He grabbed a landscaping stone and smashed the small pane beside the French door handle. Glass broke across the tile with a sound that seemed too violent for the quiet neighborhood. Ethan reached through, unlocked the latch, and stumbled inside. The kitchen had been cleared down to the bones. No baby bottles by the sink. No fruit bowl. No coffee machine. No row of Olivia's teas. The refrigerator door hung open, unplugged and empty. The pendant lights above the island illuminated nothing but polished stone. "Olivia!" he shouted. His voice came back to him, thin and frightened. He ran upstairs. The primary bedroom was bare. The bed was gone. The rugs were gone. His closet had been emptied so completely that even the cedar shoe trees were missing. For one stupid, panicked moment, he thought of his watches. Then he thought of his daughter. He ran down the hall to the nursery. The room had been painted a soft cream when Lily was born. Olivia had chosen the color because she said babies should wake up to warmth, not spectacle. The crib had stood under the window. The rocking chair had sat beside the bookshelf. The mobile above the crib had tiny brass moons that turned slowly when the heat came on. All of it was gone. No crib. No chair. No diapers. No Lily. Only one thing remained in the center of the carpet. A thick folder. Ethan walked toward it as if it might explode. On top was a printed phone log. 6 months of calls and messages to one number, highlighted in yellow. Serena Vale. Beneath the phone log were hotel receipts, restaurant reservations, jewelry invoices, a photograph of Serena wearing the emerald bracelet Ethan had told Olivia was a client gift, and a copy of the post-nuptial agreement he had signed 2 years earlier after laughing at the fidelity clause. At the very bottom was a handwritten note. Olivia's handwriting was elegant, narrow, and perfectly controlled. "The merger did not run late, Ethan. Your lies did. The house is sold. The assets are secured. The locks are changed. Lily and I are gone. You were too busy looking at her to notice I was packing." Ethan read the note once. Then again. The words did not change. He called his lawyer. Raymond Ashford answered on the 4th ring, voice hoarse with sleep. "Ethan, it is 4 in the morning. Where is my wife?" There was a pause. "You are at the house." "There is no house. It is empty. There is a sold sign on the lawn. My daughter is gone." Another pause. Longer this time. Olivia executed the fidelity clause. Ethan gripped the folder. That clause was boilerplate. No, it was binding. "Raymond, I signed that thing because you said it protected me from business liability." It did. It also transferred asset control to the injured spouse upon documented infidelity, financial misconduct, or abandonment of the minor child. "She cannot sell my house." Raymond's voice cooled. "The deed was in her name through the Whitaker Family Trust. You approved that structure when you needed her family's collateral for the Laurel Heights project." Ethan felt the room tilt. "You let her do this?" "I represent the trust, Ethan. As of yesterday, I also represent Olivia. You were my lawyer. I was your lawyer until you billed a mistress's hotel suite and jewelry to client development expenses. That creates exposure for the firm, the trust, and your company. Ethan's chest tightened. Raymond, fix this. I cannot. Then tell me where Lily is. No. She is my daughter. Then perhaps you should not have missed her vaccination appointment to spend the afternoon at the Langford Hotel. The words hit harder because they were quiet. If you try to approach Olivia or the child without a court order, she is prepared to file for emergency protection. Do not make this worse. The line went dead. Ethan stood in the empty nursery as dawn slowly brightened the windows. For years, he had thought silence meant Olivia had nothing to say. Now he understood silence could be a moving truck, a wire transfer, a signed deed, and an airplane leaving before sunrise. Chapter 2. To understand how Olivia Caldwell emptied a 6-bedroom house in one day, a person had to understand what Ethan had always ignored. Before she became the quiet wife in the family photographs, Olivia Whitaker had been a crisis logistics director for an international shipping company. She had moved hospital generators through flooded ports, rerouted medical supplies during strikes, and once coordinated 300 refrigerated containers across 4 countries after a customs system failure. She knew how to move things without chaos. She knew how to read schedules. Most importantly, she knew how to wait until the route was clear. 6 months before Ethan found the sold sign, Olivia found the first receipt. It was not a hotel invoice. It was not lipstick on a collar. It was a jewelry receipt for an emerald bracelet from Bellamy and Company. $48,000. The client name on the receipt was Ethan Caldwell. The delivery address was not their home. It was Serena Vale's apartment. Olivia stood in the laundry room with Ethan's jacket in her hands and felt something in her body go very still. Lily was asleep upstairs. The dryer hummed. Outside, Ethan's car was in the driveway because he had claimed to be too exhausted for dinner after a brutal client meeting. Olivia put the receipt back into the jacket pocket exactly where she had found it. That night, she made his favorite short ribs. He ate 3 servings and complained about a junior associate who did not understand presentation. Olivia listened. She smiled at the right places. She asked whether he wanted more wine. At midnight, while Ethan slept heavily beside her, she opened his phone. His password was still Lily's birthday. That was the kind of father he was. Sentimental in symbols, absent in practice. The messages were not hidden well. Serena sent photographs. Hotel room mirrors. Champagne glasses. A close-up of the emerald bracelet on her wrist. You should see your wife's face if she knew how good her money looks on me. Ethan had replied with a laughing emoji. Olivia sat in the dark, the phone light turning her face blue. She did not cry. Tears would have woken him. Instead, she downloaded every message, forwarded the files to an encrypted account, and put the phone back on his nightstand. The next morning, she called Raymond Ashford. Raymond had been Ethan's attorney first, but the Whitaker family trust paid his retainer, and Raymond loved clean documents more than he loved arrogant clients. He reviewed the evidence in his mahogany office while Olivia sat across from him, one hand resting on the stroller beside her. Lily slept through the first hour of her father's collapse. This is enough for infidelity, Raymond said. There is more. Olivia placed the jewelry invoice on the desk. Raymond's brows rose. Company expense? He routed it through client relations. I checked the credit card category. That is not just a marital problem. No. Raymond took off his glasses. Olivia, if you execute the clause, you need to be precise. He will rage. He will threaten. He will use the child if he can. Men like Ethan do not lose ownership gracefully. Olivia looked down at Lily's tiny hand resting against the blanket. Then I will not leave him anything to grab. The plan took months. Olivia moved heirlooms first. Silver-framed photographs, her grandmother's pearls, the quilt her mother made before she died. She said she was decluttering for the baby. Ethan barely looked up from his laptop. She transferred her inheritance into Lily's education trust. She moved her own accounts to a bank Ethan never used. She found an off-market buyer for the house through a discreet broker who specialized in fast private sales. She scheduled movers under 3 different company names. She hired a security team with experience in domestic exits. Then she watched Ethan become careless. Serena helped. Serena loved being seen. She tagged hotel restaurants without naming him. She posted photographs with Ethan's watch visible beside a champagne flute. She sent Olivia a message from an anonymous account with a photo of the emerald bracelet and one line. Some men like color after years of beige. Olivia stared at that message for a long time. Then she printed it. Serena thought she had thrown a knife. She had handed over a label for the evidence folder. The perfect window arrived when Ethan announced a Denver development trip. 3 days, he said, kissing Lily's head too quickly to notice she turned away from the smell of his cologne. The negotiations are intense. Of course, Olivia said. He squeezed her shoulder. You are the best. I know this is a lot with Lily. Olivia looked at his hand on her shoulder and wondered when touch had become a formality. Travel safely. At 8:10 the next morning, Ethan's car left the driveway. At 8:14, the first moving truck arrived. Olivia stood in the foyer with a clipboard, hair tied back, Lily in a carrier against her chest, and gave instructions with the calm of a woman directing freight through a storm. Nursery to truck 2. Trust inventory to truck 1. His office records stay boxed for legal. Clothing marked Ethan goes to storage under council hold. Anything billed to the firm is photographed before removal. The movers worked fast. By noon, the living room was empty. By 2, the sale closed by digital signature. By 4, the buyer's attorney confirmed funds had transferred into trust. By 6, the last truck pulled away. By 8, Olivia stood in the nursery and placed the folder on the carpet. Lily slept in her carrier near the door. Olivia looked at the blank wall where the crib had been and felt grief rise like cold water. She had imagined a different life in this room. Not a perfect one, just honest. She had imagined Ethan holding Lily at sunrise, learning the weight of responsibility, becoming softer because someone small needed him. Instead, he had treated fatherhood like a photograph and marriage like background music. Olivia turned off the nursery light. At the private airfield, just before midnight, Ethan texted. Long night. Denver team is impossible. Kiss Lily for me. Olivia removed the SIM card from her phone and dropped it into a trash bin. She boarded under her maiden name. When the jet lifted into the dark, Lily slept against her chest. Olivia watched the city fall away beneath them. Ethan was not coming home to a tragedy. He was coming home to logistics. Chapter 3. The first place Ethan went after the empty house was the bank. He still believed money could restore gravity. He walked into First Meridian wearing yesterday's suit and another woman's perfume, but he carried himself with the old arrogance. The young teller recognized him, smiled automatically, and then looked closer. Mr. Caldwell, are you all right? Joint savings, he said. I need a withdrawal. Of course. She typed. Her smile faded. She typed again. There is a freeze on the account pending family court review. Then unfreeze it. I cannot. I am the account holder. One of them. The primary initiated the freeze. Balance. The teller swallowed. 0 available. The word 0 entered him slowly. I deposited my partner distribution last week. It was transferred to a trust account yesterday. He leaned toward the glass. Check Caldwell Gray Architecture. I do not have access to business accounts. Then get someone who does. The branch manager came. Then a private banking officer. Then a security guard moved closer to the door. The answer did not change. The business account was under review. Several card charges had been flagged by counsel. Ethan was an authorized signer, not the sole owner. Significant authority sat with the Whitaker Family Trust because the firm had been refinanced during the Laurel Heights project using Olivia's family collateral. Ethan listened as if the words belonged to another language. My wife has no role in my company. The private banking officer looked at him with professional pity. Her trust does. Ethan left with $430 in personal checking and a warning not to attempt a wire until counsel cleared the account. He called Serena from the parking lot. She answered on the 5th ring. Baby, it is early. Olivia knows. Silence. Knows what? Everything. The house is sold. The accounts are frozen. I need to come over. Another silence. Different this time. Calculation wearing perfume. Come over here? Yes, Serena. Ethan, my building has cameras. I do not care about cameras. I do. My lease is in my company's name. If your wife is doing legal things, I cannot be dragged into this. He stared through the windshield. I bought you a $48,000 bracelet. You gave me a gift. With money Olivia is now using against me. That sounds like you were careless. He almost laughed. You sent her a photograph. Serena's voice cooled. I sent a woman a lesson about keeping her husband interested. She printed it. That is not my problem. I have nowhere to go. Then go to a hotel. My cards are frozen. Serena exhaled, annoyed now. Ethan, I like you. I really do. But I do not do ruined men. Fix it, and call me when you are clean. The line clicked. Ethan stared at the phone. He had imagined Serena as proof of his power. Youth, desire, risk, admiration. Now stripped of cards and keys, he saw her clearly. A woman who liked the view from his balcony, not the man who owned the door. He drove to his office. Caldwell Gray architecture occupied 3 floors of a building Ethan designed himself. Steel, glass, clean angles, a lobby with an atrium that made clients look up before they reached reception. He used to say the building was a signature. That morning, his key card flashed red. Access denied. Chloe, the receptionist, stood behind the desk with red eyes. Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Gray asked you to wait in Conference Room B. Conference Room B is for interns. She looked down. I'm sorry. Ethan slapped the card again. Red. Open the door. I can't. The executive wing door opened from the inside. Julian Gray stepped out. Julian had been Ethan's partner for 10 years. He was the engineer to Ethan's visionary architect, the quiet man who made sure the beautiful things Ethan promised did not fall down. Today Julian wore a suit. That frightened Ethan before the words did. Open the door, Ethan said. Julian stood behind the glass. No. This is my firm. It was. Ethan laughed, sharp and ugly. Do not start. Julian pressed the intercom. The board met at 6. You are suspended pending investigation. The board answers to me. Not after the trust froze your voting shares. Ethan's face tightened. Olivia has no authority here. The Whitaker Family Trust holds 34% of voting shares after the Laurel Heights bailout. You pledged another 12% against personal debt last year. That leaves you with less control than you told everyone. Chloe stared at the desk. Ethan lowered his voice. You are making a mistake. No, Julian said. The mistake was billing Serena Vale's hotels, jewelry, and travel upgrades to client development. Ethan went cold. That was temporary. It was fraud. Everyone does it. Not on the Miller account. Not while asking the trust to guarantee project financing. Olivia sent the documents to counsel and to Miller's compliance office. They pulled the $42 million contract this morning. For 1 second, Ethan could not breathe. The Miller contract was the firm. It was the bridge to national work. The award he had planned to put on every magazine cover. You cannot remove me. Julian's eyes hardened. I am trying to save the firm from you. 2 security guards approached behind Ethan. One carried a cardboard box. Inside were his desk items, a framed wedding photograph, a brass model of his first building, 2 notebooks, a tie, a fountain pen Olivia had bought him when his firm opened. Ethan looked at the photograph. Olivia stood beside him in white, smiling at him instead of the camera. He turned the frame face down. The guards escorted him through the lobby, while junior architects pretended not to watch. Outside, rain had started. Ethan tried to start his Mercedes. The dashboard glowed. Remote immobilization active. Contact leasing company. The lease was held by Caldwell Gray. Ethan sat behind the wheel of a dead luxury SUV with a cardboard box in the passenger seat and watched people with umbrellas step around him. No house. No accounts. No company. No mistress. For the first time in his adult life, no door opened because he expected it to. Chapter 4. Ethan spent the first week in a motel off the interstate, paying cash for a room that smelled of old smoke and bleach. He sold his watch. Not for what it was worth. For what desperation allowed. He used the money on a lawyer who told him the fidelity clause was strong, a private investigator who told him Olivia was careful, and whiskey that told him nothing useful. At first, he raged. He wrote messages he could not send because Olivia's number was dead. You stole my daughter. You ruined me. You think you can hide forever? Then he deleted them, not because he regretted the words, but because his new lawyer warned him every threat could become evidence. He went to the police and reported Lily missing. The desk sergeant listened, looked at Ethan's wrinkled suit, and asked whether a custody order existed. It did not. She is the child's mother, the sergeant said. If you believe your daughter is in danger, bring evidence. Evidence. The word had become a weapon everyone else held. On the 9th day, the investigator called. Your wife took a private flight, he said. Filed for Zurich. Switzerland? Filed for Zurich. Did not end there. Ethan sat up on the motel bed. What does that mean? Means the plane stopped in Bangor, Maine, before crossing. Passenger transfer was logged as crew adjustment. Very neat. Very expensive. Very much not something a panicked housewife does. She got off in Maine. Looks like it. Maine meant nothing to Ethan. No family. No friends. No property. Then he remembered vaguely Olivia mentioning a grandmother from the coast. O'Connell. Or O'Hara. Something Irish. He had not listened carefully because her family stories had no investors in them. Find the town, Ethan said. That costs more. Ethan looked at the room. The peeling wallpaper. The plastic cup by the sink. The box of office belongings on the floor. I will get it. He pawned the emerald earrings he had bought for Serena but never given her. He had planned to present them after the Denver trip, along with a speech about patience and new beginnings. The broker behind the glass gave him $2,000. The earrings were worth $12. Ethan took the cash. The investigator found the decoy trail to Portland, then a rental car under Olivia's mother's maiden name, then nothing. Olivia had abandoned the car near a bus station. She is good, the investigator said. She is not good. She is my wife. Those are not mutually exclusive. Ethan hung up. For 2 months, he lived like a man erased from his own blueprint. He moved to Maine because rage needed geography. He worked cash jobs unloading freight near Portland's waterfront because pride could not buy food. His hands blistered. His beard grew. His body thinned under thrift store flannel. Every night, he used library computers to search. Olivia Caldwell. Olivia Whitaker. Olivia O'Connell. Baby Lily. Real estate records. Birth clinics. Small towns. He found nothing. Then, in early December, he saw the photograph. A local community blog from Bar Harbor had posted pictures from a winter craft market. Candles, jam, children in knitted hats, a church basement lit by fluorescent lights. In the background of one image, a woman in a gray coat pushed a stroller past a table of beeswax candles. Her face was turned away, but the scarf was unmistakable. Navy and green tartan. Ethan's mother had given it to Olivia the first Christmas after their wedding. Olivia had said it was too scratchy to wear, then kept it anyway because she was sentimental about people Ethan found inconvenient. He zoomed in until the image pixelated. The stroller was the same brand they had bought for Lily. The woman's posture was Olivia's. Head up, shoulders squared, walking as if she knew where every exit was. Ethan whispered into the empty library room. Found you. He took a bus to Bar Harbor the next morning. Snow started before noon. The town was a summer postcard abandoned to winter. Shuttered souvenir shops, dark inns, fishing boats creaking in the harbor, wind sharp enough to cut through wool. Ethan rented a room above a tavern and watched the grocery store for 4 days. On the 5th, he saw her. Olivia came out carrying a brown paper bag in one arm and Lily on her hip. Her hair was darker now, pulled back under a knit hat. She wore no makeup. Her face looked tired. It also looked peaceful. That offended him more than fear would have. Lily was bigger. Round cheeks. Bright eyes. A blue hat with tiny ears. She laughed at something Olivia whispered against her temple. Ethan took 1 step forward. Then a man approached them. Tall. Broad. Late 30s. Wearing a weathered coat and work boots. He took the grocery bag from Olivia with easy familiarity and touched Lily's mittened hand. Lily grabbed his finger. Olivia smiled. Not politely. Genuinely. Ethan's stomach turned. The man placed one hand at Olivia's back as they walked toward a battered Subaru. Ethan stood across the street, hidden beneath the awning of a closed shop, and felt jealousy burn hotter than anger. She had replaced him. That was the thought that seized him, though he had spent months replacing her before she left. He memorized the plate. He followed their tire tracks into the snow. Chapter 5. The cabin sat 5 miles outside town, tucked between pines heavy with snow. It was not grand. That confused Ethan. Olivia had sold a house worth millions. She had emptied accounts. She had trust money, family money, his money, every kind of money he could no longer reach. Yet she had chosen a cedar cabin with a stone chimney, a porch, and warm yellow light spilling through the windows. It looked smaller than the house he had lost. It looked more like a home. Ethan crouched behind a stack of firewood as dusk thickened around the trees. Through the window, he saw Olivia carrying Lily across the living room. The baby reached for her face. Olivia kissed her fingers. The man from town moved in the kitchen, setting plates on a small table. They moved around each other with a comfort that made Ethan's jaw tighten. The back door opened. The man stepped onto the porch carrying an axe. Ethan held his breath. The man split wood with clean, practiced strikes. Crack, crack, crack. Noah, Olivia called from inside. Dinner is ready. Coming, the man answered. Noah. Ethan hated the name instantly. He waited until the lights shifted from kitchen to living room. He watched Noah carry wood inside. He circled the cabin in darkness and found the generator shed, the fuse box, the back path, the front door. The old Ethan would have knocked and demanded entry. The new Ethan, shaped by motel rooms and frozen docks and humiliation, thought he had learned strategy. In truth, he had only learned patience without wisdom. At 8:40, he cut the power. The cabin fell dark. Inside, Lily cried once. Noah's voice came calm through the wall. Generator probably tripped. Stay by the fire. The back door opened. Noah stepped out with a flashlight and headed toward the shed. Ethan moved to the front door. The lock was old. He used a thin piece of metal from his wallet, a trick learned years ago on a construction site, and eased the latch open. Warmth hit him first. Wood smoke. Cinnamon. Roasted chicken. Baby soap. The smell of a life continuing without him. He closed the door behind him. Noah. Olivia called from near the fireplace. That was fast. Ethan stepped forward. Firelight caught his face. Olivia froze. She did not scream. That disappointed him. Her body moved before her expression did. She reached down, lifted Lily from the rug, and back toward the kitchen counter where her phone lay. Hello, Olivia, Ethan said. His voice sounded rough, almost unfamiliar to himself. Lily stared at him, uncertain, not recognizing him. The realization cut through him, and he turned it into anger because anger was easier to survive. You stole my daughter. Olivia's eyes moved over him, the beard, the thrift store coat, the cracked hands, the wildness in his face. You broke into my home. Your home, he spat. You mean the cabin you bought with my money? No, she said. I mean my home. Give me Lily. Olivia held the baby tighter. No, I am her father. You were absent when you had the chance to be one. Do not talk to me about fatherhood. Why not? You missed her first fever because you were at Serena's apartment. You missed her first pediatric follow-up because you were in Atlantic City. You held her for photographs and handed her back when she cried. He stepped closer. I have rights. Then file in court. You made that impossible. No. You made it difficult by committing fraud, abandonment, and adultery under a contract you signed. Lily began to cry. The sound scraped at something raw inside him. She is mine, Ethan said. Olivia's voice changed. It became quieter. No, Ethan. She is not a possession. Do not test me. He grabbed the iron poker beside the fireplace. He did not plan to use it, or so he told himself. He needed her to understand. He needed power back in his hand, even if it was only a piece of iron. Give her to me. Olivia's face drained of color, but she stood between him and the baby with a steadiness that made him hate her. You are scaring her. You did this. No. You did. He lunged. The front door slammed open so hard the hinges cracked. Noah stood in the doorway holding a shotgun aimed at the floor, but ready. Drop it, he said. His voice was not loud. It did not need to be. Ethan turned, raising the poker. This is my family. Noah lifted the barrel 2 inches. Drop it. Ethan looked from the shotgun to Olivia. She had moved behind Noah's line of protection, Lily pressed against her chest. Humiliation surged. Your boyfriend has a gun now. Noah's eyes narrowed. Olivia said, he is not my boyfriend. Then what is he? For a moment, no one answered. Then Noah said, her brother. Ethan blinked. You do not have a brother. Olivia's face hardened. I have a family you never cared to meet. You told me you were estranged. I was. Then I needed help from people who knew me before I learned to make myself smaller for you. Noah kept the gun steady. Knees. Hands where I can see them. You cannot order me in front of my daughter. She is not looking at you, Noah said. That broke something. Ethan looked at Lily. Her face was buried in Olivia's shoulder. She was crying for her mother. Not him. The poker slipped from his hand and hit the floor. Outside, sirens approached through the trees. Noah's mouth tightened. Silent alarm from the shed. Ethan sank to his knees. Olivia, he said, voice cracking. Please. Do not let them take me. She looked at him with grief, not softness. I am not letting them do anything. You came here. You cut the power. You broke in. You threatened us with a weapon. I had to see Lily. No, Olivia said. You had to win. The sirens grew louder. The room filled with red and blue light. Ethan knelt on the floor of a warm cabin he had no right to enter and realized he had crossed the country to find a life that had already survived him. Chapter 6. The criminal charges were immediate. Breaking and entering. Stalking. violation of privacy, assault with a deadly weapon, child endangerment. Because Ethan had crossed state lines after hiring an investigator and using false pretenses to locate Olivia, federal scrutiny followed. His new lawyer stopped calling the case a misunderstanding after reading the police report. 3 weeks later, Ethan sat in a county jail visitation room, wearing an orange jumpsuit and a face no magazine would photograph. He expected Olivia. Part of him still believed she would come. Not because she loved him, because she used to be kind, and men like Ethan often confused another person's kindness with a resource they still owned. The door opened. Raymond Ashford entered instead. Ethan grabbed the phone on his side of the glass. "Where is she?" Raymond sat, opened his briefcase, and picked up the receiver. "Safe. I want to see my daughter." "No. You cannot keep her from me." Raymond looked older than Ethan remembered. Tired, perhaps. Or simply finished with pretending. "The court issued a permanent protective order this morning." Ethan slammed a fist against the counter. "Because she lied." "No. Because you broke into her home and threatened her while she held a baby." "My baby." Raymond grew still. "That is why I am here." Ethan frowned. Raymond slid a document against the glass. 2 years ago, you and Olivia attended a fertility clinic." "What does that have to do with anything?" "You remember the testing. The doctor said we had options." "The doctor told Olivia the truth." Ethan stared at the document. The words blurred at first. Diagnosis: non-obstructive azoospermia. No viable sperm present. He read the line again. No viable sperm. His mouth went dry. "This is fake." "It is not. Lily is mine." Raymond's voice was steady. "Biologically, she is not." Ethan stood so fast the chair scraped the floor. "Who?" "An anonymous donor through the clinic." "No. Olivia chose the donor after you refused follow-up appointments and accused the clinic of embarrassing you. She wanted a child. She wanted a family. She believed, wrongly, that becoming parents might bring you home." Ethan's hand shook around the receiver. Memories flashed in fragments. Olivia asking him to come to a second appointment. Him saying he had a client dinner. Olivia crying quietly in the bathroom. Him pretending not to hear because weakness bored him unless it belonged to him. "She lied to me. She protected you. She let me think I had a daughter." "You had the chance to be her father," Raymond said. "Biology was not what destroyed that." Ethan could not breathe. He remembered showing Lily to colleagues, saying she had the Caldwell chin. He remembered telling Serena he needed patience because leaving Olivia with a newborn would look bad. He remembered using Lily as an excuse when useful and ignoring her when inconvenient. "Why tell me now?" he asked. "Because you tried to use paternity as a weapon in court." Raymond placed another document against the glass. "Your parental petition was denied. Given the biological record, the protective order, and your conduct, the court terminated your legal claim. You may not contact Olivia or Lily." Ethan stared at the papers. The last fantasy fell. The house was not his. The company was not fully his. The money was not his. The mistress had not been his. And the daughter he chased across the country had never belonged to him in the way he thought ownership worked. "Olivia wanted you to know one thing," Raymond said. Ethan looked up. "What?" "You did not lose Lily because you were infertile. You lost her because you were selfish." Raymond stood. "There is a difference." He left without another word. Ethan sat alone behind the glass, the documents spread in front of him like blueprints for a building already collapsed. For the first time, he did not scream. There was no one left who would hear it as power. Chapter 7. Serena Vale tried to survive the scandal by becoming a victim of it. She posted a black and white photograph of herself looking out a window with a caption about healing from manipulative men and refusing to carry shame that was not hers. For 12 minutes, sympathy gathered. Then Olivia's legal team released the expense summary in civil court. Emerald bracelet, hotel suites, spa weekends, private airfare upgrades, apartment rent masked as client relations. Serena's name appeared in the documents again and again, not as a confused girl misled by a married man, but as a recipient of funds routed through fraudulent billing. The comments changed tone. Then Miller Group's attorneys filed a complaint naming Ethan and Serena in connection with misappropriated client expenses. Serena deleted the photograph. It did not help. Her employer placed her on leave. Her apartment lease, subsidized through a consultancy tied to Ethan's firm, was reviewed. The emerald bracelet was seized as part of a recovery action. When investigators asked whether she knew Ethan was married, she said, "He told me the marriage was emotionally over." The investigator asked whether the baby was emotionally over too. Serena had no answer. Back in Maine, Olivia did not watch Serena's downfall closely. She received updates from Raymond, filed them, and returned to the work of living. The cabin belonged to her grandmother's family. It had sat unused for years, half-roofed, half-forgotten, filled with damp boxes and old furniture under sheets. Noah had come before her, opened the windows, fixed the heat, reinforced the locks, and stocked firewood as if protection were something siblings could build plank by plank. Olivia relearned ordinary life. Grocery lists, pediatric appointments, snow tires, Lily's laugh. The first time Lily stood holding the edge of the coffee table, Olivia cried so hard Noah pretended to go check the generator. In spring, Olivia took a job consulting remotely for a maritime logistics firm. She did not need the money, but she needed the shape of her own competence again. By summer, she opened a small operations company helping women execute safe exits from controlling marriages. Not just advice, plans, timelines, storage, transport, trust referrals, phone replacement, financial document recovery, emergency housing, the unglamorous logistics of survival. She called it Harbor Route. The first client was a nurse with 2 children and a husband who tracked her mileage. The second was a teacher whose spouse had hidden every bank statement. The third was a woman whose husband had installed cameras in the kitchen and called it security. Olivia did not tell them to be brave. Bravery was too vague. She gave them checklists. That helped more. One October afternoon, almost a year after Ethan found the sold sign, Olivia walked with Lily along the harbor. Lily toddled in a red coat, holding Noah's hand on one side and Olivia's on the other, lifting her boots too high with each step. "Boat," Lily announced. "Yes," Olivia said. "Boat." Noah grinned. "Future dockmaster. Future whatever she wants." They stopped near the pier where gray water moved beneath a low sky. Noah looked at Olivia. "Raymond called?" "This morning." "And?" Ethan accepted the plea. Noah's face hardened. "How long?" 5 years, with supervised release after. The civil fraud case is separate. "Good." Olivia watched Lily point at a gull. She felt no triumph. That surprised her once. It did not anymore. Consequences were not celebrations. They were the shape truth took when denial ran out. "Are you okay?" Noah asked. Olivia breathed in the cold salt air. "I am." "Really?" She smiled faintly. "Not every minute, but more minutes than before." That was enough. Chapter 8. 2 years later, Olivia returned to the house in Westchester. Not to reclaim it. Not to mourn it. The tech CEO who bought it had renovated the place and invited Olivia to consult on moving logistics for his family's relocation overseas. He did not know the full story when he hired Harbor Route. He only knew Olivia was efficient, discreet, and came highly recommended by people who valued both. She almost declined. Then she realized the house no longer frightened her. It was just an address. She arrived on a bright morning in a navy coat, carrying a tablet and a folder. Lily was at preschool in Maine. Noah was repairing the porch. Life continued elsewhere, which made returning possible. The sold sign was long gone. The lawn had been replanted. The front door was painted black instead of Ethan's chosen blue. The new owner had removed the chandelier Ethan loved and replaced it with something warmer. Olivia stepped into the foyer and felt memory rise. Ethan laughing on moving day. Ethan carrying her over the threshold because his mother wanted a photograph. Ethan coming home late. Lily's stroller by the stairs. The folder in the nursery. The glass breaking. The silence. She stood still until the memories settled. The new owner's wife, Maya, approached with a baby on her hip. "Are you all right?" Olivia turned. "Yes. You looked like you had seen a ghost." Olivia glanced toward the stairs. "No. Just a floor plan I used to know." Maya smiled politely, not prying. They walked room by room. Olivia noted packing zones, fragile items, transport timing, cold storage for art, pet relocation, school documents, and secure archive scanning. In the former nursery, now a guest room, Olivia paused only briefly. The walls were pale green. Different shade. Different child. Different life. Maya shifted the baby to her other hip. "This room gets the best morning light." Olivia smiled. "It does." After the consultation, she stood outside by her car and looked back once. The house no longer seemed hollow. It no longer seemed stolen. It belonged to another family now, another story. Olivia felt grateful for that. She drove to the airport without taking a single photograph. That evening, Lily met her at the cabin door with a drawing clutched in both hands. "Mama house," Lily said. The picture showed a square house with a red roof, a blue scribble of ocean, and 3 stick figures holding hands. Olivia, Lily, Noah. Also a very large dog they did not own, but Lily insisted was coming someday. Olivia knelt. "It's beautiful. Our home." Olivia looked around the cabin. The boots by the door, the firewood stacked unevenly, the kitchen light, Noah humming badly while cooking, the ordinary mess of a safe life. "Yes," she said. "Our home." That night, after Lily slept, Olivia sat on the porch with tea. The ocean was dark beyond the trees. The wind smelled of pine and salt. Noah stepped outside and leaned against the railing. Hard day. Strange day. The old house. It felt smaller. It was 5,000 square feet. Still smaller. He understood. That was one of the gifts of family rebuilt honestly. Some things did not need translation. Olivia looked into the dark. "I used to think leaving was the brave part. Wasn't it? Partly. But staying gone is its own work. Building something after the exit. Letting joy in without checking every window. Teaching Lily that love is not surveillance, not performance, not a man calling possession fatherhood." Noah was quiet. "You're doing that." "I am trying. Same thing most days." She smiled. For a long time, they listened to the water. Olivia thought of Ethan behind prison walls, Serena in court filings, Julian Gray rebuilding the firm without him, Raymond closing one file after another. She thought of the woman she had been in the laundry room, holding a jewelry receipt with hands that refused to shake. She wished she could tell that woman one thing. Not run. She already knew that. Not fight. She already would. She would tell her, one day, the silence after betrayal will no longer be empty. It will be peace. Chapter 9. Ethan Caldwell served 5 years in federal prison. By the time he was released, his name belonged to cautionary articles about founders, fraud, and morality clauses. Caldwell Gray Architecture had removed his name. The firm became Gray North, stabilized under Julian's leadership, and slowly rebuilt the client trust Ethan had treated like a decorative column. Serena Vale pleaded to lesser financial charges, paid restitution she could barely afford, and disappeared into a smaller city under a name that did not open doors. Ethan never saw Olivia again. He never saw Lily. There were days in prison when he told himself that was cruelty. There were nights when the truth found him in the narrow bunk and left him no room to turn. He had not lost a home because Olivia was vindictive. He had lost it because he confused ownership with love. He had not lost a child because biology betrayed him. He had lost the privilege of fatherhood because he treated a baby as legacy while refusing the daily labor of care. He had not lost a company because a wife overreacted. He had lost it because every false expense, every hotel lie, every stolen hour with Serena was a crack in the foundation he claimed to have built. Men like Ethan spent their lives designing facades. Olivia had been the one reading the load-bearing walls. When she finally stepped away, collapse was not revenge. It was physics. In Maine, Harbor Route grew quietly. Not flashy. Not viral. Not built for applause. It helped women leave with documents, medicine, pets, children, heirlooms, passwords, and dignity. It taught them how to freeze accounts, preserve evidence, move safely, and stop apologizing for surviving with a plan. Olivia never used her own story in marketing. She did not need to. The women who found her understood from the way she checked every detail, the way she asked where the spare keys were kept, the way she never said just leave as if leaving were a door without locks. Years later, Lily would ask about her father. Olivia would answer honestly but gently. She would not teach her daughter to hate a man she did not remember. She would teach her to recognize love by its behavior. Love shows up. Love tells the truth. Love does not make you smaller so it can feel tall. Love does not call possession protection. And if love ever asks you to disappear so someone else can shine, it is not love. It is a warning. On Lily's 6th birthday, Olivia watched her daughter run across the beach with a kite, cheeks pink from wind, hair flying loose beneath a yellow hat. Noah stood beside Olivia, holding a thermos of coffee. "She is fearless," he said. Olivia smiled. "No, she is safe." The kite lifted higher, bright against the gray Atlantic sky. Olivia thought of the sold sign, the empty house, the folder on the nursery floor, the broken glass, the night that ended one life and opened another. Once, she had believed a home was something built with walls, money, furniture, and a name on a deed. Now she knew better. A house could be sold in an afternoon. A home was built every day by the people who chose truth when lies would be easier, care when ego would be louder, and freedom when fear said stay. Ethan came home from his mistress and found an empty house. Olivia left a faithless marriage and found a life full enough that the emptiness no longer echoed. That was the real reversal. Not that he lost everything, but that she finally stopped losing herself. Subscribe for more stories of quiet strength, hidden truth, and the moment underestimated women take back their lives.